Welcome to Hockey Inside Out. I'm Adam Susser, coming to you from downtown Montreal with Stu Cowan, Andy Bennett, and Chris Nyland. Let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about on this week's episode. Number 1, the Canadiens are 11-1-1, so why are people freaking out? Number 2, why do the Canadiens consistently get outshot in games? Did I just answer the first question with the second question? Number 3, should Michel Therrien have pulled Al Montoya during the 10-0 blowout in Columbus? And number 4, are you confident the Habs are going to make the playoffs this year? We're trying something new here at Hockey Inside Out, and it involves you, the viewer. We want you to send us questions via video or email to the email on screen of what you want us to talk about here at hockeyinsideout.com, and we'll talk about it. Let's start the show. During Monday afternoon's press conference, Michel Therrien made a point to address the fear and worry some people have about the Canadiens despite the team's impressive start to the season. That's right. The Habs coach felt the need to calm everyone's anxieties in a press conference, even though the team on Monday was 10-1-1. Sure, it's worth noting that during the last 3 games the Habs won, they were outshot 123-61, which is pretty brutal. But doesn't the fact that the team still found a way to win in all of those games count for something? Everyone's favorite argument to discount the Habs is that the team is too dependent on their goaltender. But the Habs currently sit in 5th place in the NHL in goals scored. I wish I could say that this is an independent reaction to last year's nightmare of a season, but the fact of the matter is that the Habs fan base is one of the most demanding and unforgiving in all of professional sports. At what point does the Habs fan culture enter the realm of crazy? Are we there yet? What do you think of Michel Therrien's having to make a point to urge the public not to panic, despite the Canadiens having the best record in the NHL?
Well, Jeff Molson could make one move to stop the panic. Just take the shots on goal off the scoreboard at the Bell Center. Just leave the score. Everybody's looking at the shots and what the score is, but they're playing a dangerous game, relying on Carey Price like they have in the past.
I don't know if I think asking the question, are you a bit concerned, is panicking. Especially after what happened last year. I know it's a new year, but yes, they were 10-1-1. Now they're 11-1-1. But if you're not a little bit concerned about the way that your team is playing and you're a coach, then that is not a record that's going to stand. And how many times have we heard Michel Therrien last year when they were losing games saying, but it's about the way they play. They're doing the right things. They're doing the right things. Well, how come that doesn't work on the inverse? They're winning games, but are they doing the right things? And how long can you sustain being outshot like that?
Oh, God. Crazy? It's insane. It's insanity. But people talk about this team, they're a defensive team, right? Doesn't everybody say
systems team, defensive
Look at
team, defense
they're
first.
5th in goal scoring. They're pushing the pace. Now they're pushing the pace. They're scoring goals. They got a great record. But, are they defensive anymore? Yeah, everybody labeled them, and him as a coach being a defensive-minded coach, they're not good in their own end. We've seen it, game in and game out. Teams get another stab at Carey Price. Do you think the puck is coming out? They keep it in. They turn it over. They give it away. And that's been a huge problem for this hockey club. And moving forward, until they correct that, the shots are going to be lopsided every game. 42, 21, outshot 2-1 every game if they keep playing like that. You want to play offense? There's a way to do it without giving up so much in your own end. But this team, to me, don't seem to get that right now.
It has to be bugging Michel, though, because he always talks about the process and the system, and obviously in their own end, it's not really working. And I wonder, are the guys let up maybe because Carey Price is there? I mean, you played with Patrick Waugh. Is there a different mentality when you know the guy's back there?
That. I mean, yeah, you have the security of knowing that guy's in net, but you have a commitment to each other. You have a commitment to that goaltender. You have a commitment to the fan base, everybody, to go out there and do your best every night. I'm not saying they're not doing their best, they're just not playing well together. Yeah. I don't see the support in their own end. Like I say, they're weak on the board in their own end, and that's not a good thing.
Andy, why do you think the Habs keep getting outshot?
Well, I mean, I think at the beginning, a lot of it was because they were taking a lot of penalties, and you had the other team with the man advantage a lot of the time. So that was generating a lot of shots on net. And I mean, that's what's going to happen when you turn the puck over, when you're terrible in your own end, when you're in your own end more often than not. Obviously, you're going to be outshot. But I mean, like Chris was saying, by 2-1 margin almost every game, that is just That's cause for concern. I'm sorry. I know your record is great, but
Can they keep this up?
Well, as Chris mentioned, though, the battles along the boards and that, they have a lot of small forwards. And that comes into play when you're battling for pucks along the boards and trying to chip it out and get it out of your zone. So I think that the Canadiens have so many of their small guys. And a lot of their small guys play big, but they're still small. And when you're going a one-on-one battle against the boards, I think that has something to do with it.
Support is key. Puck movement's key to get out of your zone. You know, I look at Max Pacioretty last night, and they use him on the breakout. They stretch him all the time. They never use his speed coming up the ice. He's standing still. The whole thing is stretch pass. Max tips it in the zone, and they hope Gallagher and Plekanec go get it, and then get it back to Max to shoot. But they're not using his speed and size coming out of the zone.
how often does that work? I'm sorry. That is such a boring way to
do it
enter
every
the zone.
time.
It drives
They
me
do.
crazy.
You know
It's
why
just
they
you
do it?
chip in,
Because
and then they go and battle along the boards, and then they lose it on the boards, and then they're back the other way.
It's the process.
They're worried about if they come out together, all 5 guys, they have to make 1, 2, maybe 3 passes before they get out of their zone. The way teams will play against them, they'll trap them in the offensive zone instead of in the neutral zone. They'll put more pressure on them and create turnovers in their own end, and that's what they don't want. But they're doing it. They're doing it anyway, and it's just not a good recipe.
Okay. At this point in the show, we're going to take a look at a video that I shot. I went to the Bell Center and asked fans their opinions on some things. Take a look. What do you think the chances are the Habs are winning the Cup this year?
Honestly, at least 100%.
Very high.
Very high. Conference finals is a lock.
I want a percentage here.
For conference finals or for the cup?
No, the Cup. We're talking about the Cup.
25.
30.
100%. 100%. I'm sorry. 100%.
What do you think the chances are the Habs are going to win the Cup this year?
Pretty good.
Give me a percentage.
I'll give you 76%.
If they don't win the Cup, who should they fire?
Terrien, you should be fired already.
Who should they fire if they don't win the Stanley Cup?
Michel Terrien, clearly.
If they don't win the Cup, who should they fire?
Fire Michel Terrien.
Michel Terrien.
Michel Terrien.
Terrien.
Yep, Michel Terrien.
Michel Therrien, yeah.
Definitely their coach. Why not the coach? I have no idea.
Just say Terrien.
Terrien.
If they don't win the Stanley Cup, who should they fire?
Oh dear. That's a difficult one.
I don't think it's that hard.
Terrien.
Terrien? Michel Terrien.
Michel Terrien then.
The coach,
What's his name?
Michel Terrien.
That's right. That's the right answer.
Who should they fire? No one.
No, they got to fire somebody. Come on, who's it going to be?
No one, no firing.
No, they have to fire somebody. If they do win the Cup, who should they fire?
Nobody.
They got to fire somebody
Okay. If they don't win it or they do.
if they do.
Like why it has to be the coach gets fired? Is that
Yeah.
what you want to hear? He's forcing me to say it. I don't want the coach to be fired, but he told me to say it.
No, I didn't put words in your mouth. What about Terrien?
Sure, I think so. I think Terrien should go anyways. He should have been gone long ago.
He's a nice guy. I feel bad. Everybody wants to fire him.
Michel Terrien.
Yeah, you got it. Ding, 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 ding. Ça commence par un M.
M.
Oui, son prénom commence par un M.
Michel Terrien.
C'est ça, oui. Bonne réponse, merci les gars. Last Friday night in Columbus, Coach Michel Terrien decided to leave Al Montoya in goal for what was to become a humiliating 10-0 rout. The last time the Habs left a goalie on the ice for that many goals, they ended up losing to Patrick Roy in the process. Now, obviously, Al Montoya can't just get up and pull a Patrick Roy and go find himself another team, but that's gotta sting. Michel Terrien was put in a sticky situation because the Habs were playing the next night, and looking at the product that the rest of the team was putting out there on the ice, you have to really ask yourself if it would have been worth it to put your most valuable asset through that. Does being left on the ice for 10 goals come with the territory of being the backup goaltender to Carey Price? Or do you think Michel Terrien should have pulled Al Montoya after it became clear he did not show up to play on Friday night?
It comes with the territory now. I mean, we look at the Patrick Roy thing. That's a whole different can of worms, that is. And you were talking about Patrick Roy and Al Montoya. Listen, I'm not going to blame it all on Montoya. It was a total failure of the team. But Montoya was brutal, too. He made a couple saves early, big deal. He was soft on a lot of goals. And why put Carey Price into a situation where that whole team just rolled over and died and did not even, it looked like they didn't care. They were out of the game. There was no pushback. No one got pissed off. No one got mad, which made me angry. And just watching it was terrible. So I don't have a problem with leaving him in there. He was that bad. He stunk like the rest of them stunk. He deserved to stay there and stink. And it's good this coach did not put Price into that situation.
I agree. If it was last year with a young guy like Mike Condon, I think it would be a different story where he might crush his confidence. Al Montoya is a career backup NHL goalie. He was a high first round draft pick who has become a backup goalie. Mm-hmm. He's made a career out of it. He's making almost $1 million to play 20 games this year as Carey Price's backup. He's a big boy. He'll suck it up. And as Chris says, the problem I thought was nobody on the team got angry. Brendan Gallagher is the only guy who really had some fight back. You'd think somebody would be really upset that the goalie's getting shellacked like that.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's a lot of responsibility to go around in a 10-0 loss. You can't hang that all on your goaltender. And of course, Al Montoya is not Patrick Roy. Like, those are totally different situation. And you know, I had had this argument with so many people since that loss. I just, you know, again, I think we're all in agreement here. I don't see the point of putting in a Carey Price that didn't practice that day, didn't even take the skate. This is a guy that is coming off an injury that took him out for half a season. You want to throw him in there cold after not even a warm-up? That's for a game that is, you're obviously losing that game. I mean, they were not going to come back and win that game. So what's the point?
Imagine if you brought him in and he did get hurt,
big boy.
what the uproar would be.
Oh yeah, they
imagine if he got up and we put him in.
Great job, Michelle.
Game
exactly.
And,
why you put him in? The game's out of reach. You know, like, he got to agree with Michelle on this one. He said it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, and he's absolutely right. There's no way you're coming out looking good in that. Nobody came out looking good in that. Montoya, the players, the coach.
Well, one of the smartest decisions Michel Therrien has made this season is he said Carey Price is going to play 60 games. That's what we want him to play, and he's going to stick to that. So Montoya knows he's going to play 22 games this year, and that was one of his games. And as I said, he's a big boy. Suck it up. He had a bad night.
Do you think the Canadiens are making the playoffs this year?
Oh, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. Listen, no one ever thought PK Subban would be traded. No one ever thought Trump would be president. And a lot of people probably thought the Habs would not make the playoffs. The Habs have no chance for a Stanley Cup. Anything can happen. They get in the playoffs. You just never know. And listen, it's early in the season. I believe they'll make the playoffs. I believe Bergevin is trying to make this team better for the playoffs, and he will by that time comes, and hopefully they make a good run at it.
Chris, do you think they can win the Stanley Cup this year? Will they do
that? You never know. The biggest thing is getting in there, getting in the dance now. And when you get in the dance, anything can happen. You look at L.A. Kings a few years back when they came in 8th. They got in the last day of the season. They won the Stanley Cup. Whoever thought they'd win? You just don't know. Things get rolling. I've been in this situation. 1986. No one ever picked us for anything. And we had a terrible end to the season. We were like 3-8-2 down the stretch. And we got in the playoffs and started new, and boom, we won one series. Win the next series, we got more confident. Next thing we win the Stanley Cup. So anything can happen.
Well, especially when you have the best goalie in the world in nets. And, say Patrick Roy struggled in 86 before he got into the playoffs. With Carey Price, and if there's one maybe bright spot with Al Montoya having that rough night, last year when Price went down, Marc Bergevin stuck with Condon and Ben Scrivens, which was a mistake. If he had maybe got a better goalie, maybe they do make the playoffs. I think, if something was to happen to Carey Price this year, I don't think Marc Bergevin would rely on Al Montoya going forward. I think he would go and find a better goalie to take over. So that might be one of the lessons they learned last year. They're in the same point now that they were last year. If they play 500 the rest of the season, they're in the playoffs. So I think it'd be shocking if they didn't make the playoffs, and I think Bergevin might have learned a lesson last year about how much Carey Price really does mean to this team.
Yeah, agreed. But I do think their playoff hopes kind of live and die with Carey Price. I mean, yes, anything can happen once you make the playoffs, but if they make the playoffs and they don't have Carey Price, I don't think the way this team plays, they would have a hope in the heck of winning a Stanley Cup. But I absolutely think they're going to make the postseason for sure. as far as how far they'll go, how deep they'll go, there's so much depending on that. It's all, it's so momentum in those series. And with a guy like Carey Price that can get in the heads, you get a couple of
goaltender.
Exactly, hot goaltender. You ride him, he gets in the heads of the opponent, and there you go.
Do you think they have the best shot this year, or do you think if they don't do it this year, they'll still have another year or two to really have an amazing team?
Yeah, there's a window there.
Yeah.
In the next 3 years, there's a good window there.
With Carey Price, there's a window with him also, and Max Pacioretty and all these guys.
I mean, they're not old, they're not old, but they're not the youngest guys.
Okay.
That core that you're going to be riding for that Stanley Cup run, but it'd be great to get the best out of Shea Weber while they can, for sure.
Yeah, that's 1 to 3 years tops. All right, well, I want to thank the panel for being here, Mr. Stu Cowan, Chris Nyland, and Andy Bennett. And thank you so much for watching Hockey Inside Out. We come out with new videos every Thursday at 8 a.m., so subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. My name's Adam Susser. I'll see you next week, Habs fans.